Welcome back to the Buck Sexton Show. Outing the whistleblower. Woo, everyone's all... So, the name Eric Sharamella, I believe it's how you pronounce it, was reported by the Washington Examiner, as well as links on Drudge Report, as the individual that is believed to be the whistleblower. That is what the news report that is out there says. I'm just... it is. You have a First Amendment right to read. What is it? A newspaper? I am neither confirming nor denying that it is him. I do not know, but it is out there. How Orwellian and crazy is it that now we have people in the media, no less, who are taking the position that now that news outlets, some of them have dug into this and claimed that they have verified that this is the whistleblower, that no one's allowed to say the name. It's a crime to say the name. By the way, I was concerned about this initially. I told you this was going to happen. They're gonna go after people. They're going to start to say, you can't say the name. You can't do it. Because the people that work in these bureaucratic institutions like the DOJ, and the ones that will abuse power are the leftists. And if they see an opportunity here to try to contort, try to twist the law so that it can silence people from saying something that's out there, it is in public discourse right now. I don't know if it is true or not. I'm not reporting on it. I'm not claiming to have verified it. But they put the name Eric Sharamella out there. And they say that he is the guy who was assigned to the NSC and that he works in the intelligence community. And this is what is out there in the Washington Examiner, in these other newspapers. Is there a gag order on what is being reported? I need to understand how that's supposed to work. If somebody has particular knowledge or background, or let's say they know, if someone claims that they're verifying it and they had, access to know this, maybe that's a slightly different situation if they actually learned through special access. But if you're just reading it in the newspaper like everybody else, what country are we living in if you are under a kind of gag order to not say what is the biggest news story in the country, to not name the person at the heart of it? Or I should say, to not be able to say, I read this in a newspaper? And for libs in the media to claim that this is a violation of law now? If you think I'm making this up, Donald Trump Jr. retweeted an article that named the whistleblower. He just said, here's an article where they're naming the whistleblower. And here you have a, not just media person, but a so-called legal expert. I actually have done some work with her in the past at CNN. Her legal analysis is horrifically bad, incorrect. Not that I don't like it, it's just not good. Do not have her as your defense attorney, trust me. Sonny Hostin on The View. Here she is telling the president's son that he's a criminal for retweeting that. Please play the clip.
Did you advise your boyfriend that it is a federal crime to out a whistleblower?
I didn't advise him that it was a federal crime, but I did come out of the bathroom and say I left you alone for 10 minutes. What happened when Mamacita's gone? Because by the
it's not a federal crime. It's only a federal crime for the IG to do it. That's in the statute. So that's you can't.
No, that's
but
not
that's
true.
the point. You can't
that's
run
a lie.
with it. It is not.
Let me show you the other side.
That's not true. Under U.S. Code
Okay, stop. Everybody stop. It's hard to hear.
Under U.S. Code
finish
Section
that.
1505, it is a crime.
It's not accurate. Just ask Rick Paul. He went
my
to
law
great
degree says it is, but nevertheless.
But he's not the individual that first did it.
But my question is, you did speak to him about that.
I talked to him, no, not prior to. After I said, what happened? He said, well, they're saying that I released this and I outed. But if you look at the facts, and the facts are that the name was out there, I'm not saying, I understand what you're saying, that perhaps, it wasn't the most prudent decision to retweet an article. But I want to tell you something. When we talk about transparency, the President of the United States released the transcript of exactly what happened in that phone call. The whistleblower is giving his opinion.
Did we hear what just happened there? You had a woman with a law degree. He says, my law degree says otherwise, if she wants to drop the credential on the table, saying that it's a federal crime for Donald Trump Jr., which means it's a federal crime for any of you out there. This is now her claim. It's a federal crime for any of you to say the name of this person. He is Voldemort. He is the name that cannot be said. This is not just coming from partisan Democrat officials. This is coming from people that are supposed to believe to live and die by freedom of expression, to believe in the First Amendment more than anybody. Just as a little experiment while we were playing that clip for you, I typed in the name Eric into Google. Nothing else, just Eric. Could have been Eric the Red. Could have been Eric, I don't know, I can't think of a really famous Eric off the top. Bruce or Mark, what's a famous Eric, like from sports? Give me one.
Eric Dickerson.
Eric Dickerson. I don't even know who that is. Who is that?
He's a running back.
Running back. There we go. I'm sure he's fantastic. But you know what came up when I typed in Eric? Into Google. The Google machine. Eric's a very common name. Eric Sharamella. And then all this stuff about the news reports on this guy claiming, based on these news organizations, that he's the whistleblower. In what world does anyone think that it could be even theoretically prosecutable to say, hey, I just read this thing that is literally on the internet that any human being with internet access can go to and read and see? How could that be? How is that the case? I mean, oh no, we've had the name up on the screen. Oh, what's going to happen now? Eric, oh no, oh, it's so scary. What are we going to do? I'm so scared. It's fine. Nothing's going to happen to the guy. We're just going to know a little bit more about him. By the way, this whole thing about, oh, his life is in jeopardy, which Mark Zaid was saying, and oh, Jake Tapper, that fraud, that nasty, petty fraud. He's all, Mark Zaid, the lawyer, is saying this guy's life is in jeopardy. Everybody who's ever stood up and defended Trump against the Russia collusion stuff, death threats, families threatened. If you cross Planned Parenthood publicly, you'll have people threatening you and, to mutilate your kids. And all this happens to every conservative. Oh, this guy, it's so scary for him. I'm just wondering, was it scary for Kavanaugh's family when they were under constant threat from psychotic libs who were stupid enough and delusional enough to believe that he was part of that Kavanaugh was part of a high school gang rape gang? Was that, did liberals feel bad about that at all? Because it completely created that entirely false circumstance. Do you think any of them lost sleep? Any of them cried tears about that? Did liberals lose any sleep or feel badly when people showed up at Tucker Carlson's home and terrified his wife in the middle of the night, chanting and yelling and screaming outside as a mob? Did they feel bad about that? No, I don't think so. I don't remember any liberals going on TV and apologizing for the rhetoric that is constantly promoted on the left without any compunction, without any hesitation about how the opponents of leftism and socialism today are white nationalists. All of us. Anybody. Doesn't matter if you're white or not. You're still a white nationalist. You're supporting white nationalism. It's appalling. These people are appalling. But that on The View, I have to say, that was one of the dumbest legal exchanges I've ever heard in my life. It's a crime, really? It's a crime to share a news article? You absolute, just what a, the stupidity. I sit here and I think that I understand the full depth of the moral and intellectual depravity that the left has fallen into in this environment right now. But sometimes they even manage to go a step beyond. So I would want to ask legal expert on The View, which I know it'd be better to go get medical advice from Dr. Nick from The Simpsons. Remember Dr. Nick? Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Nick. He's not really an expert on anything. Sonny Hostin's legal expertise is not good. And I just think it's interesting that she took this position that Donald Trump Jr., but you see, there are certain parts of liberals' brains now that have just become hardwired. Donald Trump Jr. must be a criminal. And therefore, any opportunity to present a case that he's a criminal is worth doing. because we know he's a criminal. We just don't know what the crime is yet. That's their approach. Their approach with Trump Sr., Trump Jr., all of them. But that was a stunning moment on national TV. Really tells you what the libs are here. I'm seeing that there are news organizations that will not print the name now. Is this now you know how we don't want to print the names of mass shooters because we don't want to give them fame, and that never really works because some people don't agree with that. The name is out there. They find out the name. I think the way that you contextualize and you frame the issue of a mass shooting can really matter to the narrative, and also the degree of specificity and detail that is reported. But the name is going to be out there. It just is. It's part of a legal proceeding. The name will be out there. This name is out there too. But you see, I think the liberals know that they can't stop this. They cannot put the genie back in the bottle. Is that like a microaggression against Middle Eastern culture now? I don't know. But they won't be able to stop this thing from being out there. But what they can do is slow down the recognition among the American people that are paying attention to this, which is not everybody by any stretch. They can slow this down so that there's just more damage that can be done under the existing whistleblower narrative against Trump. The impeachment proceeding can get further down the tracks. And if, in fact, and when we, beyond any reasonable doubt, recognize that this guy was colluding with Democrats behind the scenes to try and take down President Trump going into an election year, they'll have already gotten what they wanted. So delay matters here. It's like, why did Obama initially refuse to call Benghazi a terrorist attack? And why did Susan Rice go on the shows and say that it happened because of a video? Because people were angry and they didn't want the perception to set in that Obama did not know what the heck he was doing on foreign policy. And when you let things lapse for a few weeks, other stories come in. Delay is a strategy. They're delaying the recognition of who Sharamella may or may not be. Again, I don't know. Is it beyond my comprehension or belief that maybe they got the wrong guy? It's possible. I don't know. But it is being reported on by reputable news organizations. And I got to say, if I'm this guy and it's not me, I think I release a statement saying it's not me, right? So we can all put our detective hats on and come to some conclusions here. But I thought that moment on The View was mind-blowing. It really was. Do you realize you've committed a crime by retweeting a news article? That's it. That's a crime now, liberals will say. You see, they'll criminalize anything they don't like. I don't like that. I don't approve of that. Criminal, you should go to prison. These liberals, I'm telling you, they are just children drunk with power. It's really scary to watch the way that they operate. And there's no objectivity. There's no point of agreement you can reach when it comes to Trump and his alleged criminality. Shocking stuff. Talking about whistleblowers today, so let's continue on with that theme, shall we? Because there's another blower story out there, a real whistleblower, in fact. First, just a moment, a little golf clap or what's the liberals now? We'll maybe talk about this later, but they like when you do the twinkly fingers or the jazz hands or something instead of clapping, because clapping can trigger people. I'm serious. Clapping can be a trigger for people, so you're not allowed to do that anymore. But just kudos and props and all that to James O'Keefe for getting some great footage of a moment of real. We know what a moment of honesty is. We saw it. Amy Robach, who is a journalist supposed to be presenting you with those moments of honesty all the time. Unvarnished truth, speaking truth to power. Overwhelmingly, my friends, corporate media is just a fraud. The corporate journalist media that is out there lies. The whole mission statement's not what they say that, or rather, the mission is not what the mission statement says. The mission is to protect their fellow elites, to unify with like-minded liberal ideologues, to present a narrative to the American people that will influence them to certain beliefs and therefore make likely outcomes that are beneficial to one political party, the Democratic Party. That is the real mission statement of most of the corporate media that is out there. Not all of it. There's some people, and look, there are good journalists at every. People need jobs, right? So I don't pretend to say that every person works at this place or that place. People will trash on the left. They'll trash Fox News, and I would sit there and laugh. I'm like, oh, that's such a. Put aside all the ideological stuff. And there are journalists who are world class by any standard that work at Fox. And yet their journalist colleagues will completely. People like Jeff Zucker, oh, the place is all propaganda. The whole thing is propaganda. Really? I think Zucker doth protest too much about propaganda, which is what CNN has entirely turned into. So let's now take a step back into the James O'Keefe video, shall we? You will recall that Amy Robach, I think I'm saying her name right, she spoke about how the brass, the chiefs, the higher-ups at ABC decided that the James O'Keefe video was, the Amy Robach video that James O'Keefe's Project Veritas put out there for millions and millions and millions of people to watch. But the story that they were going to talk about, Epstein, who I'm hearing all these rumors from people that they think he didn't kill himself. But I see that the story, we all could see that the story was shut down for reasons that had nothing to do with journalism and everything to do with don't want to upset certain powerful people, want access to powerful people, don't want to cause any problems. It was a statement, an honest moment, a statement of abject cowardice from ABC. And the statement that they put out afterwards, oh, it didn't meet our journalistic standards, is the most boilerplate, oh my gosh, what do we do? Somebody just come up with some lie that we can try to tell people about this. It was so obvious that there were journalistic standards. They had witnesses, they had sworn testimony, they had photographs, they had, people on the, the story was signed, sealed, and delivered for them. Nope. Didn't want to touch it. Didn't want to touch that story. But you see, the media, they all pretend like they're competitors, but really what's important to ABC and CBS and CNN and MSNBC, that they all watch each other's backs because they all know that they could be working at any one of those organizations. So it's like a country club for people who are liberals pretending to be journalists, who want to make sure that they have lots of career options. It is not about speaking truth to power. It's not about telling difficult stories that are going to make your life harder. It's about telling stories that make your life easier. And that's what they all do. And that's why the whistleblower who initially put out, or they believe shared that video, we have an update on what happened to him. It turns out that some whistleblowers, the liberal media doesn't think deserve any protection. So you might ask yourself, ABC News has a moment here. And remember, this is a huge company owned by Disney. Everyone there is making, they're all overpaid. It's very, very cushy, the whole thing. All the anchors I'm talking about and the senior producers and everything else, they're living very nice, comfy journo existences over there. And they won't even take this opportunity to take responsibility for crushing, or for quashing, I should say, the Epstein story. They won't say, there's no mea culpa, there's no, they're instead claiming that they acted with the best of intentions as journalists, and, oh, by the way, there will be consequences for this lapse. The consequences will be visited against the person who leaked the footage of Robach to Project Veritas. That's the person that's going to suffer here. No one else at ABC gets fired. No one else at ABC has to take any responsibility for this. Amy Robach is out there acting like, it's just, I had a moment of frustration and this doesn't represent what really happened. Lying to us, by the way. She's lying to us. Just wants to keep getting, by the way, there's my friend Chadwick Moore, has hosted this show before. He has a fantastic piece out, and I should really try to pull up some of it on Robach and what the truth is about our corporate media, because if they don't take this opportunity, the mysterious career of Amy Robach, he writes. This is from Chadwick Moore. The establishment can't function without its media army of spineless egomaniacs. It's totally true. It is totally true. These people are all so replaceable, and even though they become household names, they become rich. They know their ability. What is their ability? What do they know that other people don't know? What can they do that other people can't do? They're like glorified catalog models for the most part that can read off of a teleprompter, male and female. This is not a knock on any female specifically. There's some great stuff in here, though. Here's what he writes at the end. Instead of attempting to make amends with the American people and earn trust, the American media is stuck in a psychotic loop of doubling down and further alienating themselves from the population. They continue to do it in the most petty ways. Mainstream media couldn't be bothered to even acknowledge the source of the Robach leak, Project Veritas. Such a scrappy, troll-fueled operation is beneath mention for those who have the royal family on speed dial, it would seem. In the rare instance the networks did mention Project Veritas, they couldn't resist adding a snide, right-wing activist group qualifier. Anyone who initially championed Robach has probably reconsidered. She's not worthy of our praise nor condemnation as much as our pity. The establishment can't function without its army of spineless egomaniacs steered in any direction by dangling a carrot. The cogs who will never know the joys of doing good, only the rewards of doing good for oneself. End quote. Chadwick Moore here in The Spectator. Mic drop. Really good stuff from Chadwick. So, now, what happened to the whistleblower? What happened to the whistleblower? I just want to know. The one in ABC, the one who pointed out, or rather went to somebody to expose, because this is clearly, this is journalistic malpractice. You'd say, well, does he work at ABC News anymore? No, he doesn't. So what's ABC really going to, they're going to try to take him to court? They're going to sue him? Well, maybe. They could be litigious. Oh, no, what they do is they reach out to CBS Evening News, where I interned a long time ago, by the way, believe it or not. I was an intern at CBS Evening News. Horrible, smug, snide libs everywhere. I was 18 years old, and I was like, who are all the smug, snide libs in here? Where did they all come from? I didn't realize at the time. I didn't know quite how much of the media was biased in this way. I was a young guy. I mean, I knew there was some media bias, but I didn't realize. I was like, oh, so CBS Evening News, this is a Democrat propaganda operation. That's cool. I mean, I wasn't even in college yet. I was a high school senior, but I knew what was going on there. But the whistleblower, the person who has come forward or I shouldn't say come forward, the person who released the allegedly, let's keep that in mind, allegedly released, works at CBS Evening News. So ABC executives reached out to CBS executives. You know what CBS executives did? Fired him. Fired him. Now, let's unpack this for a moment. This person exposed something that was newsworthy, malfeasance from a journalistic perspective, did not do anything to CBS Evening News, or didn't even do this while employed, I'm sure, at CBS, or perhaps, didn't take the video while employed at CBS News, and harmed what is supposed to be a direct competitor of CBS Evening News, ABC News, in the process. And they fire him? Let's unpack that for a moment. Why would you do that? Why would you just concede to the wishes of a competitor that has just gotten a big black eye, and you're going to toss somebody out because of what they did to a former employer that really they were right to do? Who's the real victim here? Is the real victim ABC, or is the real victim the young girls whose stories were not told for years because ABC wanted to sit down with the royal family? Which, by the way, there is no journalism that is more worthless, feckless, stupid, moronic than the American journalists who were so excited to sit with like Kate and whatever his name is, or the other one and the American. I can't even remember her name either. I don't know who's the one. Who are the royal family? Who's the two sons? And they're Kate Middleton, and then there's the other lady. I can't remember her name. Producer Mark. This is the point. Whenever journalists, I'm like, oh my gosh. I mean, it's fine. Just do it on E. Do it on a show where they're like, oh my gosh, like Christina Aguilera's latest fashion is just like setting the world on fire. Like, that's fine. But just don't do it and be like, I'm a serious journalist. Let's talk to a member of the British royal family. Oh, do they serve really good tea in Buckingham Palace? Like, what is this? Tell me about what shoes you're wearing. ABC News didn't want to lose access to the how good is the tea, what shoes are you wearing? OMG, is it so hard having people take photographs of you all the time? They made sure they had access to that and didn't care about the pedophile ring involving some of the most powerful and wealthy people on planet Earth. Wow. Seems rather strange, doesn't it? That's quite a trade-off to make. But then why does CBS fire this person? There are two reasons that I can see. CBS fires this individual because these different networks, CBS, ABC, NBC, they really all act as, they pretend to be in competition with each other, but they're all really the same restaurant serving the same food. They've just got different physical locations, but it's all the same thing. They're not presenting anything different from the perspective of honesty, truth, justice, any of that. They give you the same kind of watered down, left of center pablum. All of it. Yeah. Oh, we're the height of journalism. Yeah. It's gross. And so they protect each other. And if you go after one, the others are like, hey, sorry, those are our buddies. We know we're supposed to be wishing that they would collapse and go away, but that's not really true. We like this, ABC, NBC, CBS. We want to just all sort of be a unit, We're the big, serious TV journalism enterprises, Okay. And you know what the other problem is? And this is the bigger one. I think a lot of you know where I'm going to go with this. Guy's not a trustworthy leftist. Guy is not a reliably left-wing hack. I don't even know what his politics are. Can't we guess that it would be possible to care more about an enormous story, a tremendously important story with real victims, real harm done, continuing victimization of young girls? Isn't that enough that we could assume that this man who was just fired, just lost his job, his livelihood probably along with it from CBS Evening News? Maybe he didn't do it because he's right-wing. Didn't do it because he's a conservative. Maybe he just did it because he was horrified at what a fraud ABC is. But you see, that's a problem for these networks. They have to be able to count on you if you're going to work there. They have to count on you to know that the cause of the left, the beliefs, the ideology of progressive Democrats that run the media, that is more important than journalistic standards or ethics or anything else. That if you cross the team and you hurt the cause of the left in America, you cannot be trusted again. It does not matter. It does not matter why you did it, and it does not matter whether the left abandoned any pretense of principles in the process. They know that they cannot trust this guy to put the agenda before the truth. And that, in the mainstream media, is a fireable offense in and of itself. Oh, and one more story that kind of falls into the whistleblower category, or, people that want to have a voice in politics, that want to really matter, but don't want us to know who they are. Anonymous. Anonymous has a book coming out, and the book makes a claim, according to some journalists who remember this is the anonymous op-ed writer about the steady state and stopping Trump from doing what he's really supposed to do, or really wants to do. We still don't know who that is that wrote in the I think it was the Washington Post, the New York Times. I can't remember. I think it was Washington, whatever. I think it was Washington Post. We still don't know who that is, but that person apparently is writing a book, and the book is going to be anonymous. And in that book, there are some claims written by anonymous. There are some claims that are made. Quote, senior officials had no doubt that Pence would support invoking the 25th Amendment if the majority of the cabinet agreed. Keep in mind here that the way that is structured, senior officials believed that Pence would. There's all these conditionals, and it's just perception. There's a little bit. Look at the way that it reminds you of the reporting on Ukraine. This guy thought that this person said this thing that they thought meant this other person said this thing that they thought meant that this person would. This is just nothing. It's just like your opinion, man, right? This is nothing. Katie Waldman, who is the vice president's press secretary, tweeted out in response to this, fake news. And I'm sure it is fake news. Does anyone really believe? And I am truly curious about the answers. Does anyone really believe that Mike Pence, of all people in this administration, be like, yeah, let's have a removal of the president from office under the false pretense that he is crazy. Let's just have a legalized coup. Yeah, Mike Pence would go along with that. This anonymous op-ed writer is almost certainly just peddling lies. But how can you challenge the access or the authenticity of somebody who's writing under the cover of anonymity? You see another parallel to what's going on with Ukraine and the whistleblower. How can we know whether to believe something or not? I'm just wondering, at what point do Democrats start pulling random allegations off of internet chat boards and saying, see, this person claims that President Trump really is the Lizard King from the planet Zargon or something. And so there are people out there who have evidence that the president is really not really a human being. He's a lizard. Just looks like a human. I mean, I know that's silly and preposterous, but so is all of this, isn't it? Isn't that kind of the point? Anonymous coming forward. Also, I will tell you this. If I believed, and I know it's easy to say, if I believed that the President of the United States was like a crypto-fascist who was trying to destroy this country and take us perhaps even up to and including a nuclear war, and that I had a way of stopping him, and if I really believed that, I would need to maintain anonymity? People show up and fight and die for this country day in and day out all over the world. You can't have people know your name because you don't want to deal with the mean emails? You want to save the country from the Stalin-esque Hitlerian figure of Donald Trump, right? That's anonymous. Oh, but it's a risk to our they always talk about the risks to our national security. Why are all these people that come that they don't come forward, but why are all these different individuals that are working so hard to destroy this president unwilling to stand up and be counted? There seems to be a plague here of cowardice, people that want to attack the president from behind cover, from behind closed doors. Why is that the case? Did this ever happen during the Obama administration, by the way? Did you see people who were saying that Obama shouldn't really be president, but no one can know who I am? Can't have anybody understand. No, people stood up and they made their case about why Obama was doing a bad job, or why Obama was, in some cases, people made the case that Obama was not a legitimate president. There were people who did that. President Trump, we remember, did ask to see the birth certificate. And they weren't hiding behind the cover of anonymity, though. The media should be, if they were honest people, forget about ethical journalism, if they were just honest people, they would be all over this. Oh, yeah, sure. You just get to tell whatever story you want about somebody, and no one ever gets to know who you are, but we'll just assume it's true because we hate Trump so much. This is appalling. This is maddening. And yet, it's not called out. It's not the problem. The journos run with this. They tell these stories. They don't seem to care about what it's doing to, forget about political discourse. I feel like people are just going to start tuning out the media. They're just going to say, I can't trust these people. Here's the problem, folks. For the most part, you can't.